I was more of a gold rush guy, or modern times, when considering the 30s, and I wondered if the blind girl archetype was a bit cheap, don't shoot me yet, when presumably blind individuals might find it very difficult to appreciate this variant of film in particular. The blind character is a device to dramatically uplift an audience insert everyman who can consider whether this would be accepted, not necessarily condemned, but enjoyed as meaningful entertainment now. That being said, it isn't difficult to feel swept up in Chaplin's emotional exercise, demonstrating his comedic gifts, capacity for impactful visual displays of dramatic intensity, and his attention to the then modern techno-aesthetic schema. Although I am tempted to feel slightly cynical about its supposed invincibility as a cinematic topic. The moment they'd cry, "How dare you?" I would likely agree. How dare I? But if I were the first person other than Chaplin or another associated with the production to see the finished film, that might be honestly how I would feel. One of my favourite aspects of the film, potentially underrated, is Harry Meyer's performance as the eccentric billionaire, a stellar physical comedian handily matching Chaplin's iconic pace. His contribution is a highly notable factor in my enjoyment of City Lights. Its employment of sounds is both admirably smarmy yet technically imaginative. Chaplin was convicted that his tramp figure exists beyond the necessities of the silent era, as much as the mime-inspired comics could exist in a world wherein audiences can hear, perhaps not similarly to how personalities such as Monsieur Hulot or Mr. Bean or Snoopy or Gromit would delight audiences many decades into the sound era. Chaplin's first feature following the stock market crash, City Lights can be perceived within the context of the Depression, much as Modern Times has been, less an indicator of the roaring 20s and more of the emerging humanism of the challenging 30s. I can't help but feel that if I overheard someone being too cynical about this film, I might actually get my back up, despite my own slight hesitations, so I certainly can't blame any other for feeling that way due to my text here. It remains essential viewing, it is worth having an opinion on, and although I mightn't adore as much as other cinematic enthusiasts, it isn't due to a lack of reverence for Chaplin himself and most of his other features, and one being cynical about Chaplin in general beyond solely City Lights would absolutely be difficult for me to listen to. A dismissal of Chaplin feels like a dismissal of optimism in general, which can feel like an impractical, self-soothing and reaffirming denial, when really, as they must have believed in the 30s, if we have nothing to lose, why not embrace optimism, hope, one last stretch to possibly feel some joy before the fall? I've never been surprised by its status, more simply aware of my own refusal to accept overly idealized sentiment in dramatic fiction, but I'll freely blame myself for that. I'm not worthy to rain on any parades where this celebrated classic is concerned, and maybe no one is or ever will be. One of the five most influential artists of the 20th century, Chaplin was perceivably a cinematographic school all his own. Only a briefish passage in the 1001 Movies book here. Convinced that speech would mar the beauty of cinema, its greatest mime exponent, Charlie Chaplin, agonized over the introduction of sound technology and determined to ignore it against all advice. Presented as a comedy romance in pantomime, his defiantly silent 1931 film City Lights was in every way a triumph, its heartening melodrama and hilarity withstanding audiences' craving for talkies. Nevertheless, after shooting the film, Chaplin incorporated sound effects and composed and conducted his own score, as he will continue to do in his later pictures. The little tramp is touched by a blind flower seller, graceful Virginia Cheryl, and saves an eccentric millionaire from suicide. His gentle wooing of the girl and his determination to restore her sight propel him into a variety of jobs that go awry, like the memorable fixed boxing bout, while his on-off relationship with the drunken, unpredictable tycoon provides a parallel string of zany situations. As ever in Chaplin's silent films, there is a deftly choreographed comedic eating scene. Here, a party streamer entwined in the oblivious Chaplin spaghetti, and a slapstick misadventure with the law. Beautifully acted, this quite perfect balancing act between laughter and eloquent pathos culminates in a deeply moving finish, one of the real landmark greats, and I bet that even in sped-up form, you can gauge the emotional impact of the scene arriving rather shortly. Thank you very much, everyone.